All right, what is going on, everybody? This is Jason Cole back again with the Patriots Drive podcast. Today, we're doing something for the first time we haven't really done. We're going to do a mock the mock. Mel Kiper just came out with his updated NFL draft, mock draft for the 2022 season. Couple shockers, and then we'll get to who he has New England selecting at the 21st overall pick. But let's hop right into it. Cole, a couple picks stand out here early in the top 10. Who's the first one for you in this mock draft?
Yeah, Drake London going number 4 overall to the Jets. That's pretty surprising to me. A guy that I feel like would be available at the 10th overall selection. That's kind of more of the range we've seen him in, is that 10 to 15 range. So Drake London coming off the board pretty early is interesting. AFC East, that'd be a guy that if he's kind of going to be boom or bust, it seems. So if he booms, that's going to be scary for the Patriots to have to defend a guy with that much size and that jump ball ability. That's going to be a mismatch nightmare, especially against any of the corners we currently have on the roster. So that was the first thing that stood out to me, just seeing a wide receiver go that early in a class that we haven't seen anybody really go that high or anybody even be talked about to go that high. So it's interesting to see. I could see him going to the Jets, but it's interesting to see Mel Kiper having him go this high. I'm sure he's talked to some executives in the NFL to get this information. Obviously, I don't think he just put him at 4 for no reason. So it's interesting to see some of these receivers climbing up the board.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of teams are high on Drake London. You know, crazy good athleticism, played basketball at USC, also was a star there for the basketball program before he just went football. But when you look at the Jets, something that they need has been offensive line, and they signed Laken Tomlinson this year. You have Evan Neal still on the board. He goes next pick, number 5 to the Jets. It's a little, like you said, maybe if they want Drake London, they could have gotten him at 10 and they could have addressed the offensive line position at pick 4. But they go, Mel Kiper has him going receiver at 4. And we just talked about it at pick 10. He has them going with who we both love as a cornerback prospect. First corner off the board, Ahmad Sauce Gardner. This pick is from Seattle, obviously for the Jamal Adams trade, but now you're going to get an elite corner, rookie corner that never gave up a touchdown in college football and has all the intangibles, length, size, man coverage, speed in the draft, staying in the AFC East. And when you look at this draft, if this is how it were to fall for the Jets, I would say this is a very good draft. You got a very high ceiling player in Drake London where, like you said, he could boom. He could be a dude that is very hard to guard in the AFC East, especially with New England having a lack of size at the corner position and a lack of skill at the corner position in general. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're getting one of the best corner prospects in, recent history in the draft in Ahmad Sauce Gardner, who can really lock down receivers with his length and his skill set in press man.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that would be perfect for this system. Press man corner. That's somebody the Patriots I would love to see fall to the Patriots. There's no chance. And like you see here, him going top 10, unless the Patriots trade up, which they're not going to do, there's no chance he comes to New England. So Jets get him. Stinks to see him go in the division, but that would be a great pick for the Jets, I think. And then right after that, you see Derek Stingley Jr. going to the Commanders at 11, and then Trent McDuffie coming off the board at 12 to Washington, and then Jordan Davis to Houston Texans at 13. So we got 3 corners in a row there, 10, 11, 12 coming off the board, and then Jordan Davis at 13, a potential Patriots target if he somehow fell to 21. So that takes off a few targets for the Patriots. We didn't really think those guys would be on the board, but here they are going pretty early in the top 15 in the early 10 to 15 range. So 3 really talented players. Obviously, if Stingley fell to 21, that would be amazing. Not going to happen. Same with Davis. McDuffie is an interesting one. He's more of a zone guy, like we've touched on. We don't know what the Patriots are going to be running. They are a man-to-man team. That's what they've always been. That's what they always want to be. But maybe they like McDuffie, and maybe if he was there at 21, they'd target a guy more zone if they want to switch to that type of system. So interesting to see some really talented players that we knew would go early come off the board, but Jordan Davis from that combine has shot up NFL draft boards and mock drafts very quickly.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me here, Derek Stingley, a guy that, before the whole draft process and, maybe even his senior year, widely regarded as a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, easily the number 1 corner. Now he's fallen back a little. I would say this, Mel Kiper says this right in his NFL draft, circle April 6th on your calendars. That's LSU's pro day. Stingley did not test at the combine. He's had injury problems. He will test at the pro day. This could shoot his stock up. This could also lower him where maybe he does become a realistic target for New England. He had a great freshman season at LSU, a little bit slow. season last year, and not as good as his freshman year, but he has experience guarding some of the best receivers in the country and the SEC. He's done it at a high level for a lot of years. So I would love to see him fall. Like you said, though, I think that you're going to see him finally getting on the field, testing, showing off some of his skills. Might shoot up, maybe even jump Sauce Gardner, getting top 10. But moving down the line, receiver prospect that we love, Chris Olave, draft crusher. We have going a couple picks early to the Eagles. That's 3 first-round receiver picks for the Eagles in a row now, and they have 3 picks this year. So with their first one, they're going to go with Jermaine Johnson, the D end out of Florida State, and then they're going to scoop up another Patriots target in Devin Lloyd at 19. So they're really throwing a lot of wrenches in the Patriots draft process. But Chris Olave is a dude that tested incredible at the combine, runs his routes very clean, really does everything as good as you'd want it. And he's going to be one of the safest picks in the whole draft, especially at the wide receiver position. You know what you're going to get out of him. And this might be the guy that, kind of fixes it for the Eagles after their bad draft history at the receiver position.
Yeah, I wonder a little bit with Olave and Devontae Smith. Kind of an interesting pairing there. 2 guys that are both speedy guys, a little bit on the smaller side, I guess you could say. Kind of similar players in a sense. I mean, I think Chris Olave's route running is ridiculous, like you said. I would love him for the Patriots system. I think he'd be perfect, but Eagles take him here a little earlier than we would hope he would go. We hope he falls to 21, and the Patriots have at least a shot if they want him, because I think Olave would fit in great here and be a perfect scheme fit. So next up, we got Trevor Penning to the Chargers, just an offensive tackle prospect who dominated at the Senior Bowl, and that's a guy that not a lot of fans would love, especially we just re-signed Trent Brown, but I could see the Patriots being interested if he was in their range or if they got to trade back. That's one thing that just maybe to keep an eye on, a tackle somewhat soon in the draft to replace Isaiah Wynn in the near future. But won't take too much time on that because that's probably not as likely as some of these other ones. Kenny Pickett at 18 to the Saints going off the board as the first quarterback, and then Malik Willis at 20. 2 things. The more quarterbacks that go off the board early, the better for the Patriots because that means more talent is falling down to them. They're not going to take a quarterback, obviously. So you want more defenders, offensive players, all to fall down to you in the draft. And that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. It's not a great quarterback class. Only 2 off the board before the Patriots pick. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But maybe if the Patriots want to trade back, somebody wants to trade up to get one of these quarterbacks with the Patriots pick, that's an option as well. So seeing those 2 quarterbacks go, and then Devin Lloyd, a linebacker, to the Eagles at 19. Another Patriots possible target, sideline to sideline linebacker, guy who's got some speed and athleticism. A little bit on the smaller side still, but he's bigger than a guy like Nakobe Dean, so he would fit the Patriots system a little better.
Yeah, and you see quarterbacks coming off the board at 18, 20. They could easily go higher. You got Atlanta, who's quarterback list. They did sign Marcus Mariota. He's probably not the long-term deal. Carolina's been rumored. Detroit could grab one. You got Seattle now up there that's quarterback list, and now you have 2 top 15 picks for Houston. So you could definitely see more quarterbacks start coming off the board other than these 2, and that would be best case scenario for the Patriots. But as we get to the Patriots pick here at 21, obviously no trades involved, so New England's not moving back in this mock at least. But maybe one of the most explosive receivers in the draft class, Jamison Williams, coming off of a ACL tear in the national championship game against Georgia. The slot receiver for Alabama did it all last year, was spectacular, true vertical threat, raw speed. The thing that worries me is we just haven't seen New England use this type of guy. And hopefully if they take Jamison Williams at pick 21, he comes in, he changes the offensive philosophy. There's ways to get him the ball. He has that Alabama connection with Mac Jones, although they didn't play with each other. He was an Ohio State transfer, but you're going to get a dude that has very raw speed. I wish we could see him run the 40-yard dash. Obviously he won't be testing, but he's going to come in and he will have an instant, immediate impact, whether he's catching the ball or not, just because of what he can do, taking the top off of defenses alone.
Yeah, and that's great value at 21 for a guy like Jameson Williams here. He's only there because the ACL tear, like you mentioned. That's why he's here. He's tremendous talent, game breaking speed, a guy who's a deep vertical type receiver. Patriots haven't used that guy as much and haven't had as much success finding a guy like that. So maybe this is the guy that they changed their system for a little bit. We heard rumors about the fullback situation with Jakob Johnson. Maybe the Patriots want to spread things out more, have a more vertical type receiver in this offense. And I think Jameson Williams would be a good fit if that's what they're looking to do. Olave is a better fit for their current scheme that they ran this past season and they've ran the past 10 years, whatever. Jameson Williams is a guy that can maybe switch things up. Maybe him and Mac Jones have a nice deep ball connection there. That'd be good to see. I like that pick for the Patriots, given the board, given some of the top corners off the board there, given Chris Olave's off the board, Jordan Davis. The one thing here that we don't see in Mel Kiper's draft here is Andrew Booth Jr., corner for Clemson, not in the first round. I think that's a target for the Patriots at 21 if he's there. If somehow Kyer Elam and Andrew Booth are both not first round draft picks, I would absolutely love for the Patriots to trade back and draft Andrew Booth in the early second. That would be phenomenal. Then you get another pick in that late second round or early third round for a linebacker, maybe John Mechie in the early third, something like that. That would be incredible. So that's kind of best case scenario in this situation. If those guys really weren't coming off the board till early second, I'd rather trade back and not take Jameson Williams. I think we have a bigger need at corner right now, even though Jameson Williams is such a talented player, and I think he's going to have so much success wherever he goes. The Patriots need defensive cornerback help right now more than they need wide receiver help. So I think personally, I'd like them to trade back and take Andrew Booth early second if that's somehow where he is, which I don't think he is. I think 21 would be a good spot for Booth as well, but Mel Kiper has his information and insider stuff, so we'll see where that what happens with that situation.
Yeah, and a trade down is very likely for the Patriots, especially in this situation. A receiver, not a spot that they've had much success drafting in the first round. They need cornerback depth. Like you mentioned, you can trade from 21, maybe get a low first round pick, high second round pick, and probably get an additional third, maybe a fourth round pick, or maybe you get a fourth and a fifth. So this is a way that New England can get some of that draft capital that they're lacking because they didn't get any comp picks this year. And they don't have many picks later in the draft, except for they have one in the first, second, third, fourth. They gain the fifth from the Shaq Mason, and then I think they have two in the sixth. But usually New England likes to will and deal on draft night. Whether it's in the first round, day 2 or day 3, you're going to see some movement with the pick. So I agree. I think that you could trade down. You could get a Kyer Elam. You could get Andrew Booth for great value at, if you're talking pick 30 or lower, and get an additional pick to help, with the depth at linebacker. Grab one of the good receivers that we saw test very well in both the combine senior day and at their pro day. There's a lot of them. Christian Watson, John Mechie, like you mentioned. George Pickens is a guy that's soaring up boards. Sky Moore. There's a lot of depth receivers that could be impactful in the second and third round.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of been interesting to see how that plays out. I'd love to see those guys fall into the early second and the Patriots trade back and scoop up an Andrew Booth. That'd be great value. So last thing for me, Bengals taking Travis Jones, defensive tackle at 31. That was interesting to me. He's a guy who's flown up draft boards. We had him as a potential Patriots target after the Senior Bowl in that second round, late second round range, but he flew up draft boards after his combine. He performed really well, tested really great. So that was one thing interesting to see him sneaking into the back end of the first round. I think he would be a great fit with the Bengals. Really talented defensive tackle who is that defensive tackle 2, maybe 3 behind Jordan Davis and maybe Wyatt.
For sure. Well, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below who you would like New England to take at 21 in this mock draft. If it was Jameson Williams, or if you'd rather see them go a different position like linebacker or corner with one of those guys still on the board. But subscribe, stay up to date. We're going to have a mock draft on our live show Tuesday at 9 p.m., whether it's a 7-round mock draft of just the Patriots or a first-round mock draft. You guys will have to tune in to see that. Make sure you guys tell your friends about us. Stay up to date on our Instagram so that you can follow us when we're not live streaming or doing clips. But thank you guys for all the support, and we'll talk to you later.